Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up for you. It may be Sunday, but it's a fun day for XRP. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, it's $4.1 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is up 1.2%. Keep an eye on that. We're over $4 trillion. I love that. Bitcoin back to 118,300 plus. Ethereum 4,500 plus holding. Three spot is XRP at $3.12. We're up 0.2 on the 24. It's still off 2.1 on the 7-day. Look at that range of price now between 309 and 314. So we're at the top side of that, but the range is tightening, showing me that things are just kind of lying flat at the moment until we get Congress back in session, voting on that Clarities Act and get it passed and signed into law. Now, we'll keep an eye on that, and we got so many other things to follow too, but let's start right here. There is a breakdown going on in the Ethereum Bitcoin community, and Microstrategy and Joe Lubin's company are being targeted. Now, I may have showed you this clip yesterday. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm going to give you just enough to get the picture of what's going on, and you won't believe what we understand here. You're going to love it. Let me just give you this to level set.
Guys, I've been staying silent on the matter, but I can no longer stay silent about this. We need to discuss what's going on with these crypto treasury companies. And in particular, there's one that I've already discussed, SharpLink Gaming, but there's one that I've been hesitant to bring up, and that's MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor. I'm now convinced that Joe Lubin and Michael Saylor, as well as all of their followers and everybody else who's big fans of this entire crypto treasury company scheme, are co-conspirators in what may potentially be one of the biggest crimes ever. This is basically a massive Ponzi scheme as far as I can tell, and I'm no longer willing to sit idly by while this goes down. Joe Lubin's SharpLink Gaming is down something like 15% today alone. Ethereum's down 3%. What the hell is going on? Bitcoin just hit all-time highs, yet MicroStrategy is something like 20% off the top. Are they going to stop doing their at-the-market issuance ever? No. Michael Saylor did provide some clarity in his latest earnings call around the conditions under which they would continue to do that. But the reality is we continue to get diluted and shareholders are getting completely wrecked.
This is exactly what we've talked about on the channel. If Michael Saylor's using all this money that he's getting from MicroStrategy to buy Bitcoin, why would anybody buy MicroStrategy? I covered a gentleman, I think he was an economist, who was talking about this exact point. We had a video, we covered this. At some point, it's going to dawn on the people that are buying MicroStrategy that my money's getting pimped out for him to get Bitcoin, right? So it's dawning on people, and it is a problem. Dom from Easy A says, at risk of angering a few maxis, I will say that I believe MicroStrategy may be on its last leg, he says. In a week where Bitcoin broke all-time highs, MicroStrategy is down 20% from its highs, the same as Nick O'Neill just pointed out. And he says here, for a company that claims to provide leveraged Bitcoin exposure, this is exactly what strategy investors don't want to see. If this price divergence continues, which looks likely, now remember, Dom from Easy A also valued companies on Wall Street. This is not him shooting from the hip here. This is a serious, serious possibility. He says here, if the price divergence continues, which it looks likely, investors will no longer buy MicroStrategy stock, and the new money that Saylor relies on to continue buying Bitcoin will stop flowing in fast. Unlike when Saylor began his strategy, there are now several safer ways for investors to get Bitcoin exposure. So examples like ETFs, buying directly on Coinbase or Robinhood. If I were an investor in strategy, I would monitor this situation very closely, not financial advice. And you can see the divergence there. There you go. Look, again, we've talked about this. I mean, it's the same thing as you see people out here in the community saying, you need to invest in my fund. You need to invest in my fund. But they're also calling for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 XRP in the near term. Well, if they really believe that, why would you ever invest in somebody's fund? You're getting ready to be as rich as you could ever want to be, right? It doesn't make any sense. So you can tell where the charlatans are out here. You can tell who they are. And then listen to this. This is Austin Campbell calling out Ethereum. It's not ready for prime time.
I don't think Ethereum is ready for prime time for real world asset issuance. Like we just witnessed with the Bybit hack that the Ethereum validator set is currently at a place where they're not really willing to do things about significant exploits. And so I would ask the entire Ethereum community, let's assume a worst case scenario happens and Tether or Circle's private keys get compromised. And a hacker is now in control of the smart contract on Ethereum for USDC or USDT. Assume a worst case scenario happens and Tether or Circle's private keys get compromised. And a hacker is now in control of the smart contract on Ethereum for USDC or USDT. Including all of their freeze and seize capabilities. What do you do? Right? Like, what are you doing with your hands? What is your game plan at that point? Because it's going to break everything on that chain. And until we have significantly more mature risk management tooling around like the Ethereum product, it is not ready for prime time.
And I literally just showed you something from Smoke Dog, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where the banking world did a report that said Ethereum doesn't line up with ISO 20022 compliance standards. You know, Ethereum is not ready for prime time. Then again, the XRP community already knew that, but wait until the conversation drifts into the CCP China backing the Ethereum network. They still don't want to talk about that. Well, let's talk about this. The biggest unlock of idle liquidity in crypto is coming to a platform near you. Imagine earning 4 to 7% on your XRP and creating a taxable, without creating a taxable sale, while earning a return that is similar to the bond market or better. That's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about. This is what's coming. Now, this is Flare right here. Listen to what it says at the end of this.
Market, but given the demand and the current momentum with the stable coins, all our tests, and also a lot of the things that Flare is launching on DeFi show that we can be on the 4 to 6, 7% on yield on XRP, which for an asset that never seen a yield, that the cost of capital is fundamentally zero, is extremely attractive.
Now, 2 points on this. One, you know, this is a new thing, so we got to be careful. You know, when anytime there's something that comes out, whether it's Flare or anyone else in the world, you want to be careful because you want to make sure that whatever that bridge is, and that DeFi bridge to get your assets to there, that's usually where a hack happens. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that will be here. I'm just suggesting that's been the point of failure with most of these third-party DeFi platforms. So we need to see that prove out, that that's solid. There's no hole, no backdoor, no way in for a bad actor, right? And then on top of that, Vet XO made a good point and said, you know, in this market, the way it is right now, 4 to 7% is not enough return for him to put his XRP on another platform like this, because he can earn 4 to 7% just being in the market, right? Now, here's where I come in with that to add to that, because Vet makes a great point. What I will say is, though, getting a return on my XRP and getting a yield on my XRP is the holy grail. To never sell your XRP and become a lender, a bank of sorts, and earn that yield while the world uses it and you never have to sell it. Why do I love that? I love it for a couple reasons, because for one, I haven't sold my XRP in that scenario, which means I haven't created a taxable event. And earning 4 to 7% is good as long as XRP is at a steady price level, whether that be $10 or $5,000. It needs, for me, it needs to be on a platform that is trustworthy. You know it's not going anywhere. Maybe they even insure your assets. That would be, I would love that, right? And then you can earn the 4 to 7% when XRP's 10, 50, $100 or whatever you choose to do. And you're not dealing with the volatility as much because at this point, I'm looking into the future and I see the entire financial system tokenizing on things like XRP Ledger and others. And this will help bring so much liquidity to the network that it helps to level out price at some point. Now, I have often had a strategy that I've shared in the DPMG and private group where we talk about taking some earnings and rolling those over in our earnings and our gains and rolling those gains into something like US Treasury bonds in a 4-week rollover, which were right about 4.3% last week. And if you did that to per $1 million, you make $43,000 per every $1 million you put in, right? So understanding that strategy, that would give you a very low, safe, minimal risk return holding those T-bills, right? And that's why I look at that, because I like being in aggressive sector investing. And then I also want to have some solid money coming in that has nothing to do with the aggressive side of the markets that I'm invested in. Good, solid plan. Now, if I can achieve that same goal with my gains, and XRP goes up, and then I can find that trusted platform and place to put my XRP to earn that same 4%, let's just call it on the low side, or even more, and outpace the bond market and never sell my XRP, that would be something I would be absolutely interested in doing. Again, not creating a taxable event because you didn't sell your XRP, you just put it up for yield. So again, there's a lot there to be learned. There's a lot there to investigate. But things are coming, and the biggest unlock of idle liquidity, which is XRP and every XRP holder, is coming to market much sooner than we think. And meanwhile, new Ripple advertisement at New York's Times Square. Here it is right here. Look at it. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. It's happening. It's happening with Ripple. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And watch out, because, you know, we got the legislation, signed it into law, ETFs, bank license, Federal Reserve master account, and then they'll be tokenizing everything for everyone. And don't forget that I've kind of got my fingers crossed here that Ripple's quietly in the process of buying Uphold, but I have nothing to base that on other than I just want them to. But you know what? Let's see what happens. You know, let's put it out there. Yeah. And then here is a clip from yesterday. Paul Barron and Sal Gilberti, and shout out to both of these gentlemen. I want to play this clip for you. Let me refresh this page. Internet is being a little wonky this morning. Okay, it won't let me play this video, but we got something for you here in a second. I played it yesterday. Sal Gilberti says that SWIFT will collapse and that all Ripple NDAs will serve as a catalyst for XRP. And it may just be that when Ripple becomes a bank, they announce that they're not selling any more of the escrow. How about that one? For anybody that's not sure, I can tell you right now, Smoke Dog shows it here. Ripple and Stellar interoperable chains integrated with Swift network through ISO 20022. You can see the payment systems here, right? It's all right there. And then you can see similar to Swift ISO 20022 standard interoperability, right? You can see all of that. And then obviously we showed this yesterday as well, where you see Ripple and Stellar inside of this whole paradigm of what's going to be the new way to process, clear, and settle payments. That's what's coming here. And Japan now announces that they have been approved for a yen peg stablecoin for the first time as early as this fall. Who has a gigantic relationship with Japan and the largest bank in Japan, SBI? Remind me again? Oh, that's right. It's Ripple. Yeah. And you know what? Dimes to donuts, it will be on the XRP ledger too. Just like the Singapore stablecoin, right? Or the one in Brazil, right? There are two in Europe, right? Because that's the whole idea, is that you put the world on the payment protocol, and hello, that's where all the money is. And then you can start making all kinds of markets like never before where XRP can settle them for the first time in history. Now, here's a clip here with Paul Barron and All In Crypto. And I want you to listen to this great conversation here. We don't know how big this monster is going to be. And that is exactly right. But it is a big monster, old Ripple and XRP. And it is something you can't unsee once you ignore all the lies and misdirection and look into it yourself. That's exactly right. Paul Barron's eyes are wide open now. We've been right all along. Shout out to the GOAT DAI. That's absolutely right.
You know, you see people getting kind of backlash in regards to some of the outlandish or what seems outlandish price predictions that people throw around for XRP. The truth of the matter is, we don't know how big this monster is going to be.
That's exactly right.
If it achieves the goals that it set out to do, and there's every sign from the likes of the president just there that's going to be the case, people are way underestimating just the size of XRP because it's going to need that liquidity to enable all of this. It's an amazing time to be alive and in the crypto space.
We are talking about the leader of the free world.
Yep.
Okay. That goes on air and basically takes time to reference a financial system that is aging and immediately drafts his model into crypto. So you know that he's got, well, we know he has one ear right now being controlled by David Sachs. And then you think that there's another ear that maybe is out in the open right now that has been very connected to not only the government here in the United States, but also been connected to the payment architecture that has been building for almost 3 decades, okay? And we're talking about, and you guys probably know, the PayPal mafia. Now, David Sachs, we all know who he is. The crypto and AI czar, also one of the original PayPal founders. He, along with Elon Musk, another guy by the name of Peter Thiel, all of those guys are in very unique positions. And isn't it interesting that all 3 of those guys are confidants to the president of the United States?
It's extremely interesting.
Does the vector not really, it's kind of out in the open right now. Does the vector not point to something here?
Oh, it's so great that Paul lays it down that way. Shout out to both of these gentlemen. Rupert, all in crypto, doing a great job, and Paul Barron, too, as always. Yeah, it does point to something. Zach Rector's got it right here. Some folks forgot about this one. You know, I think it points to this vector, right? The U.S. is going to need to have a presence in the new digital on-chain economy. And I believe this is one of the ways it does that. It's through the work with Ripple, getting a banking charter license and a Federal Reserve master account, and then they begin to be soup to nuts, A to Z, providing from tokenization to custody, clearing, settlement, DeFi and lending, and the rest of it, making markets if they buy Uphold, which I'm speculating highly on. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I'll say it if I'm wrong, but I just would like to see that personally myself. I have nothing to base it on. But it would help round out Ripple's offering, and they've had a great relationship with them for years. So why not, I say, right? We'll see where that goes. But you know what? Here's another quick clip right here. Take a listen to this. This one will play.
You know, it's hard to say. If they get approved as a bank and then announce they're not going to sell any more XRP onto the market because they want to capitalize the bank, I think that would be an enormous impetus for price. That's gigantic.
It is gigantic, and it could happen. Of course, we've also talked about and believe that there are many different earmarks inside that escrow belonging to other people, central banks, governments, and countries, if you will. Amazon, BlackRock. I mean, the potential there is incredible. Escrow, by definition, means holding funds for a third party. So, you know, this gets very, very interesting the more we get closer to this. Now, take a listen to price target talk in the next 12 months here. Take a listen.
Yeah. If you look at where we are in regards to that cycle, we're at a point when it starts to heat up. And this is taking place when Bitcoin dominance, we believe, is now entered a downtrend due to technically what's going on. Ethereum versus BTC has now shown more strength than it has throughout this entire Bitcoin dominance cycle, which is telling of what's to come. There's a shift towards altcoins. This is typically when the most explosive part from a price action point of view takes place. And you've got every catalyst, including the president of the free world, literally talking about crypto. Everything is coming to a head. Ripple has a kind of unique positioning in that in regards to its own specific news. I don't think people are bullish enough. In fact, I think you are going to see insane things. Our price prediction for XRP in the not too distant future is around about $19.27. And that's based on the wedge that everybody's looking at. Beyond that, how do you value XRP?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You're talking about blue ocean discovery at that point, because if we're at close to $20 on XRP, that means something major has happened. We've obviously, and I think it'll be a combination of things, ETF, the potential of what we'll see in terms of 401k assets possibly shifting into Ripple and XRP. But bigger, I think, is the connection to the currency system, and that will be the replacement of SWIFT. So all those kind of catalysts right there gets back to your point. And I've heard crazy numbers. I'm not one of those that believes we're in, going to see, a $500 to $1,000 XRP, at least not anytime soon. Yep. What does it have in the future? Who knows? My price target has always been in the next 12 months around $60. And that is based off of these particular catalysts continuing to play out, if they in fact do. And if you look at the price action right now, I'll just go over to the chart for you guys. One thing that we've been continuing watching is our sentiment. This is a chart trading tool that we built some years ago. Tracks trade sentiment. It tracks all the sentiment on social and then overlays that into a Pine script that we built for tracking this, and it's called the MSI, Market Sentiment Index. And we tracked two key things. This was an all-time high back here in, what was that? Right there on July, mid-July. We had an all-time high MSI on XRP, and of course we had that run-up that was happening during that period of time. Then we had another one right back here, and this one, of course, was on August 3rd. Another run-up that has happened. So when we start to see that MSI reacting, sentiment in general, and it gets back to how powerful this community is, price action usually ensues. So it's very interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. And right here, Eggrag Crypto shares the total market cap, $13 trillion, arrow, then target. Take a look at it. This is where we're seeing to go here for a crypto total market cap. And we're currently at $4 trillion, and he's seeing the potential for a $13 trillion market cap. Look at this. This is possibly by December of this year. Ask yourself where that $9 trillion potentially is going to end up, and how much, if we get that $9 trillion added into the $4 trillion now, how much of that $9 trillion ends up in XRP? Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.